Hello to everyone at Fordham Prep and to all my fellow alumni. My name is Tom Gaffney and I'm a graduate of the class of 2004. And when I was at Fordham Prep, I was really involved with the student newspaper, The Rampart, and that helped set me on the path to my current job as an editor. So I'm recording this at home in my living room in Manhattan because, like many of you, I'm practicing social distancing to help fight the spread of the coronavirus. I'm feeling healthy. My family and friends are luckily all doing well, and we hope it stays that way. And I hope that, everyone watching, that you're getting through this and your families are getting through this. We're all navigating the situation as best we can. So I hope you're adjusting to your new routines. Back before the coronavirus, my normal work routine at the New York Times was to edit several stories a night and make sure that they are accurate and newsy and fair and that there's no obvious grammatical errors or spelling errors. So thank you to all my English teachers for that. The best part of the job usually is writing headlines, which is fun. And the hardest part, I usually say, is the deadlines. So when breaking news happens, we need to work really quickly. Back when this first started in January, this was sort of just an international story at first. The outbreak was at first confined to Wuhan in China, and we had reporters and foreign correspondents covering the story in Wuhan, doing incredible work, putting themselves, at risk to go and tell these stories. And then, it went from being just an international story to pretty soon it was a U.S. story, right? Cases started to pop up in Washington State and then getting closer to the East Coast. And now, as we all know, New York has been so hard hit that now this is a major metro story. So basically, the coronavirus outbreak has just totally upended news coverage. But it reminds me a little bit of, when I was a student at Fordham Prep, my sophomore year was the September 11th attacks. And that's probably the closest analog to, just an environment where you couldn't even imagine reading or writing a story that wasn't in some way tied to that news. It's just, unprecedented. So, what I tell students at Fordham Prep is basically you're living through history right now. This is a historical moment, and you're going to remember this for the rest of your lives. So two pieces of advice that I would give for students now is, one, you're living through history, keep a journal. Write down what it's like. You're social distancing, you're not able to go to school. How are things changing? Years from now, you're going to want to look back, and it can be really interesting to see kind of what you were going through. And the second thing I would suggest is, if you're feeling overwhelmed or you want to make sense of what you're seeing, now's a good time to start reading the news and covering things. The New York Times is free to all high school students. I'll throw that out there, but it doesn't need to be them. You could read any news outlets. There are so many good ones. There's a lot of great local news coverage. So just try to make sense of the world around you. The biggest change from my day-to-day in how we work is that we're now all working from home instead of in a newsroom. So, usually we're used to having this sort of collaborative environment in the newsroom. We're all close together. Now everyone's spread across 4 states, and we're trying to coordinate coverage using video chats. And I'm sure a lot of students can relate to this. If you're now taking classes from home, it's an adjustment. Things aren't quite what you're used to. And so, one thing that's kind of made me think about is just changes are going to be harder for some people than for others. And we all need to just kind of be mindful of that and, try to help your classmates get through this, your family, your neighbors. Just try to, be a resource to the people around you. So a great thing about having studied at Fordham Prep and having been taught by the Jesuits is that, they taught me a lot about the importance of service. So over the past 2 weeks or so, I've been volunteering with a group here called Invisible Hands, which delivers groceries to people who are older or vulnerable and unable to go outside. So it's a group that sort of responsibly goes out and shops and takes precautions to make sure that people don't need to go outside if they are really vulnerable. It's not for everyone. I would say there are other remote-only volunteer opportunities. There are ways you can try to serve your community just by, reaching out with phone calls to neighbors or to friends and making sure they're okay. But, the silver lining of all this is that I think it's a moment when we're seeing the best come out in people. And so I would encourage people, students at Fordham Prep, to find ways to serve.